Hello, hi friends. Hello, happy Saturday. We're actually having a bit of a storm here right now. There's been a bit of thunder and it's raining, and I'm hoping, I'm thinking, wouldn't that just be awful if I was halfway through doing a live and we lost power? Hopefully that won't happen. I shouldn't even say that. How are we today? Hi, Lani. Hi, Patricia. Hey, Nicole, Margaret. We've got a group here already. Yay. All right. So when you pop on, please say hi so I know who's here. I'm hoping this afternoon is going to be the first of many of these, but I'm hoping. So today is kind of a test run to see how we go, and I'd love to know what you think might make it better, what you really loved about it. Please let me know. You can let me know in the comments, or you can send me a message afterwards if you wish. Totally up to you. So there's a few things going on today, and I'm going to share it with you. First of all, for those of you who haven't met me, my name's Linda Dolke, and I've been a demonstrator with Stampin' Up! For about 16 years, just over 16 years, so that's a bit exciting. Hey, Margaret. Hi, Jenny. Hey, Deb. Oh, hey, Jean. I thought you'd like this time. So Jean's over in Oregon in the US, and normally when I go live, I do so at nighttime here in Australia, and it's some unworldly hour of the morning for you, Jean, isn't it? Hey, Denise, nice to see you. All right, so we've got a good group of people in here already. So some of you are my regulars because, like I said, I go live every Friday night and Sunday night here on my channel. And so it doesn't suit everybody's time slot, but this earlier time on a Saturday afternoon probably does. And what I'm hoping is going to happen, I'm hoping you're really going to enjoy these, and that you'll learn lots of stuff and you'll want to come back and learn more. And I'd like to do them hopefully once a month. So that is my plan. This month, I'm doing watercolor techniques, particularly featuring coloring watercolor images. Okay, we're not doing watercolor backgrounds today because there's so many watercolor backgrounds. I thought we should save that one for another time. So, and watercolor backgrounds are kind of one of my favorite things. So today we're doing like watercolor images, and I'm going to show you, for those of you who haven't seen it before, I'm not going to assume any knowledge. If you have been watercoloring for a while, you may find some of what we do a little basic, but I'm hoping that everyone can learn something anyway, because there's always something that some people do things differently, right? And I might do something a little differently to what you've seen before, and hopefully that's going to help everyone. So hi, everyone. I can see you all popping in, and it's so exciting to have you here with me. So thank you for watching today. All right. So the first thing I need to tell you is that some of you received from me in the mail packets. And the reason that I sent these out, these are kind of like a little reward, if you like, for people who placed an order the previous month. So everyone who placed an order in August, I feel a sneeze coming on. Give me a second. Goodness me. This always happens halfway through a live, doesn't it? If I can feel it, it doesn't want to come. All right. Let's try and hope that that doesn't come out, but at least we're prepared for it if it does. Hey guys. All right, so if you placed an order in August and your order was over $60, then you got a packet in the mail from me, this packet here, to make the project we're going to make today, okay? And of course, if I keep this going, which I hope to do, then everyone who orders this month in September and places an order over $60 will qualify for a packet to be sent out for the October theme that we're going to do. And I can give you the date for that right now if anyone's got their diary handy and wants to pop it in. It is October the 22nd. The 22nd. So it's another Saturday afternoon. The 22nd of October is our next one. And I will announce the theme for that one in my newsletter, which is coming out either the end of this week or the beginning of next week. So it'll be out on the weekend, next weekend. So probably around the 1st or 2nd of September. Sorry, October. So then you'll know what the theme of that is. I'm pretty certain I know what it is, but I don't want to say until I'm 100% certain. And I want to make sure that, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Kazarina. We have a few people that are first timers today, and I think the reason is probably the different time slot. And by having a different time slot, there's other people who normally might not be available on the Friday or Sunday evening ones. So there we go. Welcome to everyone. Okay, so this is the packet that you would have received if you placed an order with me last month, okay? And it's going to be we're going to be making this card today. Now we're doing no line watercoloring, which is a kind of a fun technique. It's a little bit, I'll tell you something about no line watercoloring. While you're doing it, and this seems to be pretty universal. While you're doing it, you're thinking, oh, I don't know if this is working. And then you just keep going until it looks good. Okay, so just bear that in mind when you're doing it, because sometimes you can feel like it's not looking the way you want it to look. Just keep going. All right, and we're going to do that today. So I'm going to switch over to the desk and we're going to have a look at what's in the packs. For those of you who didn't get the packs, don't worry. Maybe you're overseas and you can't purchase with me. Maybe you're a demonstrator. There's all sorts of reasons why people can't purchase with me. You can still watch along. You can still cut up your own bits and pieces if you like, and I'll give you all of those things. But the other thing is, the people who got the packets, the ones who placed orders, are also going to get, as part of that kind of little reward for ordering, they're also going to get the tutorials to make all the projects that I'm going to show you today. Okay, so we're making one project today, but then there'll be tutorials for other ones. Okay, so all the measurements, and there's a PDF with all the measurements and the tutorials step by step, and they're video tutorials, just so you know. But the other thing is the PDF also has all the measurements in both metric and imperial. So whether or not you're in Australia and using metric, or Europe, or if you're in the US and you use imperial measurements, all the measurements are there for you. So I've got you covered either way. All right, let's switch over to the desk and have a little look. All right. So, so you can see my card here, and all the bits in here are to make this card. We just need to know how to do our coloring, and that's what I'm going to step you through. Okay. Yes, well, I'm not sure where you are, Anne, but it's thunder and lightning here too, and that's why I was thinking. I hope that we don't lose power today, because that would be really sad for my first one, wouldn't it? All right, so let's open. You made it, no alarm clock. It's very, very early in the morning over there, Wendy, isn't it? Wendy's in the UK. So isn't it exciting having people from all over the world here? And I'm really, really excited to do this with all of you. All right. So in your packets, those of you who got the packets, here's a couple of things. I want to talk about this thing first, because you're probably thinking, what the heck is that? Some of you will know what it is, but this is something I've put in because I may not put this in every month. I haven't decided whether I'm going to make it a regular thing. But once you have one, you don't need one again for a while. This is actually like an ATC holder, which stands for artist trading cards. Or, you know, the baseball cards or Pokemon cards, all those cards are a standard size, which is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Okay. And they fit in here. And this is the size of a couple of your little watercolor pieces that I've put in your packs. And as you'll see, they are going to fit perfectly in our little slots here. Can you see that? So this here is, I've been doing this for my technique classes, my in-person technique classes for years, where whenever people come along to a technique class, they get one of these and they then keep it in a folder. And I've got ladies on their 3rd and 4th pages because they've been keeping them in a folder for years, and they write, you know, they do a technique, they might write on the back what the technique is, maybe even write down on the back how to do the technique, and then they keep like a folder full of different techniques that they can call on if ever they need to for their projects. Okay, so this is something I've been doing for years, but I thought you guys out there in online land might enjoy it as well. So that's what we're doing. If I don't respond to your hellos here, I'm so sorry because sometimes I miss comments because I'm so focused on my desk and what I'm doing, I miss comments. So if anybody has a particular comment that needs an answer and I've missed it, just ask it again, because hopefully I'll see it if you ask it more than once. Hopefully I'll see it if you only ask once, but sometimes I do miss them. Yeah, I thought it was 5 o'clock in the morning. That's a bit of an issue, isn't it? All right, let's start with what we always start with. We've got here a basic white thick piece of cardstock, okay? And I'm going to just set everything up first before we start our watercoloring. I'm going to fold this in half, okay? And I'm going to use a bone folder. So this is half a sheet of A4. If you're in the US, you'll have half a sheet of letter. And I use the thick cardstock. It is much, much, much preferred by me to use the thicker rather than the flimsier basic white. I like the thick for a card base. And if it's depending on the colors, if I'm working with earthy tones or, you know, autumn tones, then I'll go with very vanilla. Then I've also got in here a larger piece of watercolor, a watercolor paper. Now the watercolor paper that we use is this one. You can use any good quality watercolor paper. This is the one that Stampin' Up sells. It's called Fluid 100, and it is really good quality watercolor paper. It's easily comparable to your Canson papers, that kind of stuff that people know are really, really good quality. And you do need a good watercolor paper to get a really great result. Okay, there are a couple of the tutorials that I've done for you that actually use shimmery white cardstock, because sometimes some techniques work quite well on the shimmery white, and shimmery white holds a fair amount of water. So if you don't have watercolor paper in your collection, you can get away with shimmery white. It's not as great, but it certainly will still do if that's what you've got. Okay, it is nice to catch you live again. I know, Gina. So Gina's another of our US girls, and yes, for sure, it definitely makes a difference being on at this time of day. So I've got this one here. Now, let me just show you. When you open up your Fluid 100 paper, actually, I've got one that's already open. That's a brand new one. So I'm going to just pull a piece out of an already open pack. All right. So this is, the size of this is actually in inches. So it is 7 inches long by 5 inches wide, this paper. So if you cut it on the long side exactly in half, you're going to get 3.5 and 3.5, and that's what this is. This is half a sheet of your Fluid 100 paper. This is half a sheet at the 3.5 mark, and that's what I've used on the front of my card. Okay, so just half a sheet of Fluid 100 paper will be great for a card front. Okay, so just bear in mind. Then you'll notice I've got 2 smaller pieces, one that I stuck in the folder earlier, and we're going to use these today for a bit of practicing. Okay, so you've got these 2. Now, hopefully you can see this. This is the half, and then the other half, I cut that half in half, and there's my full sheet. Okay, so halfway mark here, and then halfway mark here to create these 2 smaller pieces, which is exactly 2.5 by 3.5, which is the size that fits into those folders. And when I was working that, I was like, it was meant to be. I was meant to do these folders. I didn't even realize that when I started the process, and then suddenly realized it was going to be the perfect size. So that's kind of cool, right? All right, so hopefully everyone can see. We're going to keep these ones out because we're going to practice on those first, and then this one is going to be the one we're going to do our main coloring. I've got a piece of Abigail Rose. This is such beautiful paper. You can see it's got like kind of looks like tulips on the other side, but this is the size that we're using. This is Petal Pink stripes. And on here I've used Calypso Coral, and as you can see, the Petal Pink and the Calypso Coral look like they were made for each other, so that's really cool. You've also got, now some of you may have 2 of these in your packs, and some of you may have 1 with the 2 pieces. I've actually cut this in half and used my 2 pieces top and bottom on either side of my label here. So you may have 1 of these, or you may have 2 of these. Either way, it's going to give you the 2 little flowers that look like they're popping out from behind here. This is the label that I'm using today. You could use any label you have. This is just for my sentiment. Okay, we want one that's not too big because you don't want to cover up too much of your beautiful design. But this one here is from the Nature's Prints dies, which is that gorgeous, I think you'll know the one I mean. It's from the gorgeous Nature's Prints set. Where is it? Around this mark here. Here it is. It's called Sun Prints, this one here. So the label that I'm using is out of this die set, Nature's Prints bundle. Okay, so they're called the Nature's Prints dies, and that's where you'll find that label if you're looking for it. It's on page 91 of your annual catalogue. Now, the stamp set we're using today is Abigail Rose, and that is on page 56 and 57. Oh, I had a marker in there and I forgot about that. All right, so you can see beautiful samples on here. Here's the stamp that we're going to be using, this gorgeous big rose from the Cottage Rose stamp set. Incidentally, if anyone is doing the World Card Making Day that Stampin' Up is running next Saturday, it's similar CraftAlong thing. I think it goes from 2 o'clock till 5 p.m. here in Australia. If you're going to do that, they're going to be using this set again in that crafty day. Okay, they're going to use this one, the Cottage Wreaths, and a new one called Warm Welcome, which is actually from the upcoming mini that comes out in January, but they're released early in case anyone wants to use it next weekend. So that's what it's called, Warm Welcome. welcome. So that's for next weekend if anyone's interested. That's a free craft along event again, but it's going to be much more professional because it's the professionals. It's Stampin' Up doing it next week. So I'm planning on going to that. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it's World Card Making Day, so it's a fun way to celebrate that. So this is the set, one of the sets they're using in that, and it's the one I'm using today. So that kind of worked out well, that if you happen to have that set, you can use it for both. So that's really good. All right, so I've already got, I'm going to do a bit of practicing, and we're going to do some basic watercoloring to start with. There's also a video, one of the tutorials I've done for you has basic watercoloring in that tutorial, and shows you how to use the Blessings of Home set. So I've used a lot of different stamp sets in the tutorials. For this, I'm going to use StazOn. Okay, now, if you want to do basic watercoloring, okay, StazOn is a great ink to go with because it's waterproof. And as soon as you start adding water to an image to do your watercoloring, if you haven't used StazOn, for example, if you used a classic ink or Memento, it will bleed or run as soon as the water hits it. So StazOn won't do that, because guess why? It stays on. It stays where you put it, hence the name. And it's really, really great for doing watercoloring. So this is kind of the first little step that we're going to do, and we're going to practice on one of our little pieces here, and we're going to ink up. We're going to ink up the StazOn. And I'm just making sure. Now this, I actually keep my StazOn on purpose. I keep my StazOn not too inky. And there's a reason I do that, because there are some images. Let me show you another image. For example, this one here, okay, which is one of the tutorials, is this card. This one is, you can see the StazOn image, even though it's black, it really looks more like a soft grey. So it does give us lines, okay, that we can color inside, but the fact that it's waterproof means those lines aren't going to go anywhere. But I don't want them too dark. I think if this was really, really black, this image, I think it would actually spoil the look, the soft look of this card. So personally, I tend to go with an ink pad that is not too inky. I have two StazOn pads. I keep one inkier if ever I want to get a really jet black look, and I keep one not so inky. This is the not so inky one. Does that make sense? What? Try not to drop it. That would be good. I'm a little bit nervous today, guys. Why am I nervous? That's silly. But I just am. I do lives all the time, so not sure why. I'm going to go this way. And when you're stamping with any ink, give it a good press. Don't rock the stamp, because you don't want to get any halo effect around your stamps, which is not what you want. But just give it a good press and leave it in place a few seconds so that it has time to dry, okay? Now, I'm not going to fully color this image. I'm just going to start talking about it, giving you some ideas, and then you can finish this off in your own time, okay? So this is just an extra piece. If you don't want to practice this, you might just want to practice the no-line watercoloring. We're going to do another one here, practice one with the no-line watercoloring, but you could have a couple that you practice on if you want to. So I'm going to be doing my main image in Calypso Coral. So maybe just for fun, I'm going to pick a different color. What color shall I pick, guys? What do you think? Maybe let's try something a bit brighter. This is Flirty Flamingo. And I want to show you a couple of things. First of all, our water painters, they come in a set of 3. Where's my other one? There it is. No, there it is. So this is a set of 3 watercolors, water painters, I should say. One very fine one, okay, which is the one I use the most, I have to tell you. Then one medium one, which has got a thicker brush. That's not too bad if you want to color a bigger area or even do a small wash, which you'll see me do today. And then we've got this great big fat one here that is great for doing backgrounds and washes and that sort of stuff. So this is like a wide brush for when you want to cover a wide area really, really quickly, okay? The saddle brown StazOn is lovely, Jean. That's a really great suggestion. So if you don't want to use black, saddle brown is the other option that we have, and that's once again a softer thing. I would tend to use saddle brown if I was going to go with more autumny, earthy shades. I don't like it so much for brighter colors. So for this one, I don't think I'd want to use saddle brown for this one. But if I was working with more autumny tones, then yes, I probably would go saddle brown. So yeah, good suggestion. Hey there, Jenny. How are you going? Oh, both Jennies, one after the other. Look at that. Jenny Derber and Jenny Lawrence. So there you go. Nice to see you girls. All right, so I've got these here. And for this one, I'm going to be using my smaller pen. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to squeeze it. I've got water in the barrel. So for anyone who doesn't know about water painters, you just literally unscrew them and they screw the opposite way from what you'd expect. And then you fill them up at the tap, okay? And then you put them back in, screw it back together, and give it a squeeze until, I hope you can see this. Let me see if I can get it close enough to here. So for you to see, if you watch here, you should see the water start to come down. Can you see the water coming down into the barrel here? See that? Hey, Katrina, nice to see you. All right, so once you squeeze it, you then start to get a little bit of water coloring out, coming out the end, and that's what we want. We want the other thing you want to have on hand, piece of paper towel, okay? I just use some kitchen towel and fold it over a couple of times, and this is going to be really, really useful for blotting and for changing colors as well, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Oh, there was lightning then, so I hope that the lightning does not do anything. Oh, there goes some thunder. I've got a cat that's scared of thunder, so I'm hoping he's not. You're re-inking your stays on, are you, Ilani? All right, so what I'm going to do is you can use any block, okay? I'm using a small one because I'm not going to be doing a very big area. But A, B, or even C is fine. You don't want to probably go as much as D unless you're doing a huge amount of watercoloring. You don't need it to be very big. And I'm just dipping it in here. Now, we used to get people, you see I've got some color here, to squeeze their ink pad together and put it on the inside of the thing and then pick that up as a palette, pick it up from there. Okay, you can do that. But lately I've discovered that I much prefer this because this means I'm not messing up the inside of my lid and I can control kind of what's going on top there. So now that I've got some color on that, I've got a little bit of water coming at the end, I'm going to pick it up and saturate my brush so you can see the brush is completely, you see that? Completely colored in the pink. All right, this is a corally kind of a pink. And I'm going to start with a petal. And I'm just going to do 1 or 2 petals at a time. Now this technique is actually really quick and very simple. And I'm going to put my strongest amount of color where the shading is. This particular stamp set has shading in the center here, and that actually helps you decide where your colors should be. Now I'm just going to do a couple at a time. Then I'm going to run some water out onto my scrap paper, or you could even do it onto the block if you want to, and then come back in. And now that it's a little bit watered down, we're going to get a little bit of a lighter color, and we're going to work that darker color where the shading is. We're going to work that on our way out. Now there really isn't wrong or right to this, okay? This is a very, very simple technique, and you'll see I move very quickly with it. If we start to not have as much color here, I'm going to water it down a bit, and then I'm going to use it as I come out. So what you're doing is just using one color in this case. Now you can add more colors, but I find you only need to have one color to get a really great effect. And already, because it's a small block, I need to ink it up again, pick up some color without adding much water, and then the darker color back where the shading is. And by having some darker color against the lighter ends of the petals, that also helps to create a bit of differentiation between my petals. All right, I'm going to just come in here, and then I'm going to push out some water, and so you can see it's quick. And also here's something else about watercolor, and some people probably know this already, is you don't want to, if you have a little bit of white, like white spots between petals or white spots just going on generally, leave them, okay? Because it's actually the light, it looks like light hitting your subject, and that's what gives your watercolor energy, is having light and dark spots, which is really nice. So you can see I'm being really, really rough with this. I'm just going to finish this one here. I might get a bit more ink. I might just leave that open. If Jodie's watching, she'll be horrified, but I'm going to leave that open for a bit, so I'm going to keep on opening and closing it, and I'll close it at the end, I promise. So we have a couple of our girls who keep a very close eye on me on a Friday and Saturday night, because they know that I have a habit of leaving ink pads open, and yeah. All right, so can we see now, just with one color, that this is starting to look really pretty? All right, just really simple. I love thunder and lightning storms too, only I'm just a bit concerned about the technology working while that's happening. Right, so this is the color here that we're using today is Flirty Flamingo. Now, that's as much as I need. I've got my paper towel here, so I can just wipe that straight off and give that a clean. Or you could wipe it on you could clean it on your chamois, or also on your Stampin' Scrub. You could do that as well. But what I want to do now is I want to change colors, and I'm going to be using the same pen. So I want to run some water through and just blot it here until the color. So now it's clear. Can you see? I've completely cleaned my brush now. So it cleans really easily on your paper towel. All right, so I'm going to grab my soft succulent, and I'm going to use my little block again. I'm going to pick do our leaves. So one of the ways of making sure that watercolor is going to work really well for you is don't overthink it. Okay, if you don't overthink it, you'll get a much better result than if you try to perfectly color everything. One of the gifts of watercoloring is learning to let go of the need for it to be perfect, because actually perfect does not improve the way it looks. Right, I'm happy with that. Now, in the center here, if you don't have a yellowy tone, I'm going to use So Saffron. But if you don't have a yellowy tone, you could just go over the center with some Wink of Stella, and actually that will help. That will actually go over that quite nicely. But I'm actually going to use a little bit of, I'm going to clean that off. And then I'm just going to use a bit of So Saffron in the center, because a bit of yellow looks good. And So Saffron's a good kind of a light yellow. And once again, don't feel like you have to color in the whole lot. Leave a little bit of white, because that's going to give it a bit of life. Yes, you can hear rain at my end. Yep, it's raining here, that's for sure. Or is that rain at your end, Valerie? I thought you'd be watching, Jody. All right, so that's just a quick little sample of how easy it is to color a waterproof image. Okay, there is another video about this in the tutorial bundle that you would get if you decide you're going to purchase that. So I didn't finish saying this, that if you have made a purchase last month, you're going to get the tutorials as part of the thank you for making those purchases. And if you're in my team, you're also going to get the tutorials. You don't have to purchase them. Okay. However, if you're overseas, or you're a demonstrator, or you can't order from me for whatever reason and you're not in my team, you can purchase the tutorials, and they're 20 Australian dollars, which if you're in the US right now is next to nothing, because our dollar's not worth very much. But it's about, I think it's about $14 Australian, or sorry, US, or something like that. And that's the cost of the tutorials. Each month I do this, I'm not going to always stick to the same number of tutorials. It'll depend on the technique, and it'll depend on how much work it is to do the technique. I have done 5 different video tutorials, and altogether that covers 8 different cards plus this one. So 9 cards altogether, including the one I'm going to do right now, including this one. All right, so I've showed you already one of them, which is this one here, which is just with stays on. Also, there's some blending going on around there as well. And then we're going to do some no-line watercoloring. There's coloring embossed images. There's creating scenes with your stamps, and there's using watercolor shapes. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things, and another no-line watercoloring tutorial as well. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So we've got our second one here. You have too much water, Margaret. Grab your, if you have too much water, grab some of your paper here and blot both your pen, okay? So it'll get rid of some of it. So don't squeeze the pen when you're coloring. That's one thing. It's my end that you can hear the rain. Yes, it's raining on the roof for sure. So yeah, blot it here and don't squeeze the pen when you're colouring. That's something sometimes people do. So you squeeze it before you're colouring so that you get the end of your brush wet, and then colour with it, but don't squeeze it while you're colouring. And if you do have water, you can also blot it off the surface here if you end up with too much water on your paper. I did do that in one of the tutorials too. I had too much water on one of my images, and I just blotted it off with some paper towels. So paper towels are a really handy thing to have. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use, you can use any light neutral color. I was talking to Solvega this morning, and she was saying she doesn't have Sahara sand, but she had River Rock. Some of you, does anyone remember River Rock, which is a blast from the past? That was quite a number of years ago. And that's also, so really any color like that is completely fine. So you could use Sahara sand, you could use crumb cake, you could use grey granite, smoky slate, any of those light neutrals, and you want them to not be too inky. So do a test run first on your scrap paper. That's important. I'm going to clean my, oh, just a word about this. We used StazOn on this stamp before, okay, and you might be able to see now the stamp is black. And if I clean that on my Stampin' Scrub, it's not going to get all the StazOn off, because StazOn does what? It stays on, right? You still love River Rock, and it was a really popular color. It was an in color we had for a couple of years, and a good one. All right, so it's come off partly, but it's still a little black there. So there is such a thing as StazOn cleaner. Okay, StazOn cleaner is an all-purpose cleaner, and this is for a solvent ink such as StazOn. And we do have this. We do sell this stuff. So if you're using StazOn a lot, it might be worth investing in StazOn cleaner. If you clean it straight away after you've used StazOn, you'll get most of it off with your regular scrub and mist. But I like using my StazOn cleaner, and then I clean it just like I did earlier. And then just so long as you're, not letting that build up too much, wash your Stampin' Scrub pretty often. Now can you see my stamp has come up completely clean? All right, so the StazOn cleaner is really good. A word of advice though, I wouldn't be using StazOn cleaner unless I absolutely had to on my photopolymer stamps. On rubber stamps, the rubber can deal with it just fine, but the photopolymer stamps don't handle it as well. And over time, if you're using it all the time, you could actually have them breaking down. So I would be mostly reserving StazOn for my rubber stamps. And if I do have to use a photopolymer stamp with StazOn, clean it straight away afterwards. But I would clean it with normal cleaner, not with StazOn cleaner. Does that make sense? So just a little bit of advice about that, because you don't want to hurt your photopolymer stamps. You want them to last you as long as they can. Hey there, Joan. Hi. The cleaner works great, doesn't it? I know, right? Oh, someone's hi, Marie Claude. Hi. I see that. Did you saying it's 6 hours 30? I wish I knew French. Does anyone know what Marie Claude is saying? But bonjour from France. I can get that. Hello from France. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this now in your light neutral. I'm using Sahara sand, but you could use whatever. And remember I said we're going to do a test run here on our paper. Okay, now mine's pretty good. It's not too dark. That's actually good to work with. But if you have a brand new pad or you've just recently re-inked it, you may want to stamp it off first to get rid of the really dark inking and then go on to your project. Okay, so test it out. Mine is okay because it's not super inky. There is definitely an advantage to having stamps not be too inky. All right, and we're uncovering a couple of those reasons today. All right, can you see there? I've got an image that I can see to color, but it's not particularly dark, because this time we're going to do no-line watercoloring. And of course, no-line watercoloring doesn't mean you're coloring 6:30 a.m. in France. Thank you. Awesome. Well, maybe grab a coffee or something like that, whatever it is you prefer to drink first thing in the morning, or a cup of tea. I actually started drinking, our coffee machine was broken for the last couple of weeks, and that's very sad. So I've resorted to drinking a cup of tea in the morning because I couldn't have my espresso, but we actually worked out how to fix it yesterday, and I had my first actual cup of coffee, and this morning I was very happy to start my day with a cup of coffee. All right, so once again, we can use the same color. We can use the same one here. I might for this, and let's see how we go. And this time I might go, so I haven't got to re-ink it as often. I'm going to go with a slightly bigger stamp. So B or C would be a good size. I've already got B in use. Actually, I'll use the B is good. All right, so we're going to ink that up. Just drop it there in the ink, and we're ready to go. And you can make sure there's a bit of a drop, like squeeze it so just a drop of water comes out the end, okay? And then that's enough water, and we're going to pick up, smush it around so you can kind of see it's all smushy there on the block, okay? And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick a petal, and I am going to go along the line of the petal with just the very, very tip of this smaller water painter, okay? I might do 2 at a time. So I'm going to do 2 petals, and I'm making sure I've got plenty of, and if you go into the like the less watery part of your stamp, you're going to notice that it's going to be darker. All right, so when they say no line watercoloring, of course there are lines, because we need the lines to see what we're doing. The other thing is, you might want to keep the stamp, either stamp the image elsewhere or keep the stamped image on the box close to you, or look at the underside of your stamp, because what you want to do, sometimes if any of the lines become indistinct as we're working, you'll have this to refer back to, okay? And I can see on here where the lines are meant to be. Now that I've done those 2 outside lines and gone over them, I'm going to squeeze a couple of drops, and I'm going to water that right down, okay? So you can see on this end I've still got it not colored, but here I've just created kind of a watery mush. And then I'm going to go back to that line, and I'm going to drag with the water, I'm going to drag that color of that line in towards the center of the petal. And what this is going to do, it's going to look like it's beautifully colored. And this is one reason why we only do a couple of petals at a time, is because we don't want, if you leave it to set too long, it's harder for this to happen, okay? So go over that line so it kind of starts to bleed into the center of the petal a little bit. All right, so it looks like this. All right, then I'm going to go back to the part that's not watered down, and I'm going to do another petal. So this is a time-consuming technique. It's not quick. And remember I said earlier that while you're doing it, you can look at what you're doing and think, wow, that's a bit of a mess. I really don't like how this is looking. But then a couple of drops, water it down. Then as you go, it's going to start to look more and more amazing. All of a sudden you'll go, oh, actually, this is looking nice. But when you start, you're thinking to yourself, I really don't know if I like this. It's a mess. Just trust the process. All right, so can you see there what's happening? All right, so I'm kind of, so of course there are still lines, but instead of the lines being of the stamped image, we're going over them and creating our own lines, if you like. So you're going to use the darker part here, and then, and I'll need to re-ink this up again in a second. Also, the other thing that happens is that while you're doing this, the middle part of the petal will be quite wet, because that's where you use the smushy, watery bit. Okay, you like my technical terms? And then if you put a little bit of dark into that, it's going to run and bleed, which actually that can look really amazing. So, all right, kind of getting the feel for it. I have to tell you, I'm going to ink it up again. I have to tell you, every time I do this, it gives me a different result. Who's working with me? Anyone else giving this a try? Who's working? Probably shouldn't ask you that because you're probably working, which means you can't reply right now. Sorry. You love the smushy. Oh, no problems, Gina. Nice to see you here. All right, so a couple of drops of water. Let's smush it around and let's bring, so what we're going to do is try and pick up some of that color in the line and bring it into the center of our petal. So then you end up with kind of like an effect where it's darker on the edges, and some petals will be darker than others, and that's okay. I'm going to get a bit more. Do this again so you can see how this is working. Right now, I'm probably not going to finish this flower off. I'm not going to do the leaves of this one, but you kind of get the idea, I hope. And then in the second, we're going to get started on our main project. A few drops, smush it around, and if you're worried it's got too much water, blot it onto your paper, onto your paper towel. Let's pick up some color, move it into the center. So what you're trying to do here is moving the color that you put down first, the darker color in the outline, you're moving it into the center of the petal with the lighter piece. The wetter it is, the more it's going to move. So, and if you have like little bits of white, leave those, leave them, because they actually look really good. And that's what's going to give your watercolor image life, which is what we want. I mean, that's the whole point of watercoloring really, is it gives you that real light look. Okay, so now it looks like we can't really see the lines of what we've just done. Okay, the stamped lines, and you can a little bit if you look, and if you want to get rid of them, you can go over that with a darker bit of color. So just kind of dot it on with the very, very tip of your brush. Okay, and then if you want to move that, smush it out. And just keep going. You know, trust this process, and every time you do it, you're going to get better at it, and you just keep having a play with it, and then sometimes it's going to turn out different. And I mean, once again, it's one of those techniques that you don't 100% know what's going to happen until it's done, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. They like to have that control. Watercolor isn't really something that you get a high level of control with, and if that bothers you, you may need to work on that, and that might be something beyond what I can offer you in this class. Maybe we need therapy, but they say that crafting is cheaper than therapy. So if we think of it our own little therapy session and letting go of that need to be perfect, maybe we're going to get something there. Oh, have a great day, Nicole. Good luck with your retreat. All right, so you're working, Judy. How's it going? Giving it a go, says Marie. That's great. I don't want to disturb you guys too much because I know instead of typing, you should be working. So, right. So this one I'll finish off. Whoops. I'll finish it off later, but I can use that in lots of different ways. I can cut around it, or I can use it on a project, however I like. Okay. Now, the next thing, of course, that I want to do is I want to get going on my main project, and we're going to now, while I think of it, for anyone who I'm going to be announcing in my next newsletter what the next theme is for the October CraftAlong. So if you would like to see that, and if you're not already getting my newsletters, can I suggest that you head over to my blog? Let me just quickly put that those details up for you. Here it is. There's my blog address right there across the bottom right now of the screen. And what if you go there, now if you go there on a computer, you scroll down just underneath the banner and there is a sign up form for the newsletter. Okay, and just put your email address in, sign up, and you not only get a free tutorial when you sign up, but you also are going to receive newsletters from me. I usually send them a couple of times a month. okay? There's usually one at the beginning of the month with whatever's new and happening, and then maybe one halfway through to remind people about, you know, events like this and all that kind of stuff. But the one that I'm going to send out at the beginning of October will have the new theme for next month's events. So if you want to be part of that, please sign up. If you're on your phone, it doesn't come up at the top of the blog. You go down to the bottom and you can see the information down there. So you're asked to see to view the web version of the page, and then you'll be able to see it. So, but on a computer, it does work, and you'll see it up near the top. Okay, I'll just take that off because I know that that can take up some space. And let's get started. We're going to get our little cards. So we've got our larger piece now. This is the half watercolor sheet, which is the one that we're going to use. And we're going to be stamping. This time, though, I'm not going to use Sahara sand. This time I'm actually going to use my Calypso coral. It makes sense if you're going to be doing no-line watercoloring. It makes a lot of sense to use the color that you're going to be working with, because then your color will disappear in with the stamping, right? So you can use a very light neutral, like what I said before on the last card, or you can use the color that we're going to be painting with. And in this case, it's going to be Calypso coral. So I'm going to stamp this down in the bottom left-hand corner here, like this. All right, and obviously the Calypso coral is going to blend into my coloring, so it's perfect, right? Makes a lot of sense. If you look closely, the flowers, you can't see the lines really, but you can see the Calypso coral lines around the leaves, and it looks rather nice. Can you see that there? Can we see that? So the Calypso coral, you can see if you go looking for it. Also, this little bit of what looks like baby's breath or something up here. You can see that as well, but there we go. All right, so then I'm going to do another one kind of here. So this time the leaves are going to be showing over here on the right. So the flowers disappearing off the edge here. And then I'm going to do one more up in the corner. So we're kind of creating a background. And like I said, you don't have to worry about being light with it or anything, because you're going to be using this color anyway. All right. Now, you can leave it just like that, but I thought having a few leaves down here in the corner was a nice idea. So I've just got a few little leaves appearing over the corner there. And I think that's probably fine. I'll pop that to one side. Now I've got B block here. This is the Feel Better Real Soon, that also is from this same set, and it fits really nicely on my little label. It's a nice little get well card. So many people I know have been sick lately, and I thought I need some more get well cards. So I thought this is good. But there's a best wishes sentiment that would probably just fit on your label if you like that one. And the Friends Forever also fits on the label. So there's a few there that fit nicely. The Happy Birthday does, but it's kind of small. So I think I prefer some of the others. All right, so I'm going to go in and we're going to do exactly what we did before. And I hope I remember to talk while I'm doing this, because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm coloring, and I find the same thing in my classes, if I have people coloring, everyone goes quiet. Everyone's concentrating. There are two things that make people go quiet in class. Well, three things. One is coloring. Another is cutting out, like fussy cutting with scissors. That makes everyone go quiet. And the other one, of course, is eating. So, but everything else, people tend to be loud and noisy, but not when those three things are happening. All right, let me go back. I'm missing the comments. I can't quite see them. I hope the tips are useful, Jean. It isn't actually that intimidating once you start playing with it. And if you, I've just inked up off this little block now, and I'm going to start with this one over here, and I'm going to go over that line, and I'm going to do a couple of those. If you do about 2 petals at a time, if it was a very big flower, you might only do 1 petal at a time. If it was a very small flower, you might be able to do more. Okay, but then I'm going to push some water through, a few drops, smush it around. So now I've diluted it, and now I'm going to bring that color down into the center of my petal. So it's not really intimidating if you think of it like this. It's not so scary. But yes, I imagine if you have never done it before, it can look a little bit intimidating, but You know, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm a super duper expert, because I haven't done a huge amount of no-line watercoloring, but I definitely, preparing for this class, I thought to myself, you know, I really need to do this more often, because, you know, it does look really, really beautiful. I mean, this card turned out really nice. So this was actually the first attempt I did of this technique in a very long time. I have done no-line watercoloring in the past, but I haven't done it for a long time. And I was like not 100% sure I knew what I was doing to do it again. And that was the first attempt. And I went, you know what? I guess I can do this. This is okay. So I'm going to push some water through, and you can always go off on your paper here if you want to dilute it down a little bit more. Okay, pick up some darker color. I hope the tips are useful. Thank you. So, has anyone else here had to play with this technique before and really enjoyed it, or found it, you know, how do you guys feel about it? Was it intimidating? Was it something that you felt was easy, not easy? So 2 petals, smush around, dilute. Now I've got a little bit too much water on there, like what you were saying before, Margaret, so I'm going to blot it. Okay, now when you blot it, look how light it goes. All right, actually that's really pretty, isn't it? Let's blot this as well. All right, so it does dry lighter than when you're coloring, okay, but blotting will certainly make you, it's almost immediate, the difference in the color tone. Let's see, what have we got here? I've got a 16-year-old supposedly cleaning his room as I'm doing this, and I'd be very interested to see if anything has occurred while I've been busy. Ah, thanks, Susan. Thank you for answering the question. I must have missed it. What I was saying before about the watercolor paper is that we do have the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, but it stands up really well against a lot of the really well-known brands of watercolor paper, such as Canson and so forth. There are some lovely, lovely papers out there, but if you're looking for one here from Stampin' Up, it is actually, it compares really well. All right, let me grab some more of the darker color here. And let's push some water through. And you can see, you can actually be fairly rough with it. You can kind of, you can't be as rough as what we did before with the Stays On ink. And I tell you what, if you're looking for really easy watercoloring, one of the tutorials that is on offer this month is how to use embossed images and use those in your watercoloring, because that's kind of a little bit different again. They are great because it gives you like a little bit of an outline, like a raised outline to work with, so it makes it very easy. And if you're looking for an easy way to start with watercoloring, and an embossed image is a really great way to start. So you may want to have a little look at that one. Here we go. Right, so I'm going to smush a bit of, bring that color into the middle. Right, now I'm going to actually grab my paper towel and just give that a little bit of a blot. And you can see it's looking really pretty. Okay, and you can't really see the lines apart from what you have. I mean, if you look really carefully, you can see them, but if you don't want to see them, you can go over them again. And darken it up in certain bits. Okay, so just, I think it's a nice way to watercolor, and it's quite satisfying as well. You're loving it, Judy? Oh, good. I'm so happy. That makes me happy. Oh, you just got home, Cherie. Nice to see you. I was hoping you might be here. All right, so we've got one more to go. And let's do this last one. So if you're not quite up to where I'm at, don't worry, okay? You can always watch this later. Just work at your own pace. Don't feel like you have to, keep up with me. So let's get it all smushy and bring that into the center of our petal, that darker color. And if you want to, you can blot that, or you can just keep going and let it dry. You can also use a heat tool if you want to hit it with a heat tool, but you don't have to do that. Blotting also is quite effective if you need to speed up the process. I'm going to do one more petal, and then I'm going to smushy it up. I don't think this is the technical term, smushy it up. I don't think that is. Do you? I'm pretty sure that's not right. But that's what I'm saying, and it's working for me, okay? Oh, you're always welcome. Always, always. Hey, Joan, I saw you were here before. Did you see I put up some photos on my blog of the time in New Orleans? And there's a really nice photo. The very first photo is a really nice one with Robin and me in the with some other friends. And I thought you might like that one. All right, let's smushy that, dilute that down, and then move that color into the center. If it's very wet, blot it as you go. I'm going to grab a bit more ink. It's not quite dark enough. That's better. The other thing is having the different colors helps the petals stand out against each other. So that's always nice when you have that, that separation of the petals, because otherwise it can just look like a blobby mess. One of the cards that I have done, this one, and it does look a little bit like a blobby mess. So there's a tutorial for this one, and has all the measurements and everything in the PDF. But this is actually the Hues of Happiness, and I completely lost the lines in this one, and yet I really liked it. I thought it turned out okay. Let me just show you. It's actually, I'll show you the flower it started out as. It started out as this flower here. See the one there? It's got all those detailed lines, and that's how it ended up looking. But I really like it. I think it looked really nice. Oh, Robin and I have known each other for a number of years, Joan. We first met at the incentive trip in Palm Cove back in 2008. Isn't that a blast from the past? Goodness me. And yeah, she was also on the 2009 one in Noosa, and we got to spend some time with her there. So yeah. All right, let's smushy this up, dilute it, and bring this color in. And we've only got a couple more petals to go. Goodness. When I was thinking, someone asked me how long today was going to go for, and I was thinking with the practice pieces and everything, probably about an hour and a half. Let's see how we go. It's been nearly an hour now, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And let's add a bit of colour in here. All right, I'm kind of liking how this is looking. It's looking really nice. I'm going to blot over a couple of those very wet bits that I just did, and that's looking good too. And then I'm going to use my paper towel. Probably need some new paper towel because this one's starting to look a bit ratty. And I'm going to squeeze some water through until that runs clear, which it pretty much is. And we're going to use some So Saffron in the middle of these couple of flowers. If you don't have So Saffron, you can use any yellow, or you could even just Wink Stella in the middle if you wanted to. I'm going to do both. I'm going to Wink Stella over these once these are dry. So I made a decision, I did mention this earlier, that when I was doing the tutorials, that I'll save watercolor backgrounds for another time, because watercolor backgrounds are completely awesome, but sometimes, excuse me, sometimes there's so many of them that, you know, it would be a whole technique all by itself, and so many different watercolor backgrounds. So we're going to do that one another time, not next month, but we will do it another month. And if anyone has any techniques that you particularly want to do, sing out, because let me know. And if it's a technique that lends itself well to a class like this, I'll do it. So if there's something you particularly wanted to learn, let me know. All right, I'm going in with the soft succulent. I'm going to use my block, pick up some color, and I'm going to pick up, and we're going to do these exactly the same way. So I'm going to use, you can go over the lines or you can go through the middle, seeing as I have been finding that with leaves, and they're smaller, so you can do several at a time. Same thing, smush it up, and then, but you don't want to, the thing is with the leaves, it doesn't matter as much. And you can, you can do it the other way too. So let me blot those. All right, you can also go light first and then come back and add some darker accents if you want. So we're really only adding a hint of color with the leaves. We're not worrying about them nearly as much as we did with the petals. And soft succulent is kind of a neutral green that goes with lots and lots of different colors. I've got a mark here I didn't notice until just now. Don't know how I did that, but that's okay. That looks like a great place for a label. What do you guys think? This is what I do whenever one of the cards in the tutorial, which is the very last tutorial in the package, I managed to get a couple of, I was doing a sky, and I managed to get some blobs of ink in the sky. So I was going to redo the whole thing, and then I thought to myself, you know what, fixing these things is something that we all need to learn as well. So that's what I did. I fixed it, and I was really happy with the result in the end. It took me down a slightly different path, but it looked really, really good. So if you are getting the tutorial, that's look out for that one. We fixed it and made it better than it was before. So what I'm doing now is I'm going back in and adding some darker tones. There we go. This one might need a bit more water. But don't worry too much about the leaves. The leaves are not the main focus here. The flowers are definitely the main focus. All right, so I'm kind of happy with that. All right, so this is turned out darker than my original one, because obviously I used more water when I was doing these ones in the first place. Okay, these ones are definitely darker, and then I did another practice one as well, and that one's darker again. So you can see I've been having a bit of fun. So let's put the finishing touches to this, all right, and put this card together. Let's. Good question, Jean. I've actually got the tutorial all ready to go, but because this video wasn't finished yet and I want to include it, I will probably give me half an hour after the end of this video and it will be ready, but it probably will be done sooner than that. I'm saying half an hour to give myself plenty of wriggle room just in case anything doesn't go to plan, but it will be on my blog. So once again, I'm going to put up the blog address, and I'll do that on the screen right now. If you go to the blog, just shortly after this video comes to an end, you'll see if it hasn't posted yet, it won't be very long. It should be, I'm hoping I'll have it done in 10 minutes, but give me half an hour, and then there'll be a purchase, like a buy now button that you can actually purchase the tutorials. Okay, and like I said, if you're in the US, that's really good because our dollar's not worth very much, and you'll be able to get that really, really at a good price. So, right. I've got a piece here that's a little bit too long. So this should be 14 centimeters long, this piece. Okay. So if yours is too long, it's in the pack and I didn't do that properly, it should be 14 centimeters long. And how much is 14 centimeters in inches? That's about 5.5 inches. In fact, it's exactly 5.5 inches. So 14, there we go. And that's going to go right there. You can use whatever you like to stick that on. You could use multi-purpose glue, you could use seal, you could use tape, whatever you like. And I'm just going to pop that on. So it's a super simple card because we want to highlight when you have really beautiful coloring, or you've put a lot of energy and effort into producing a particular design, keep your card simple to highlight the design. Okay, you want the design to be the main thing. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I did want it to be the full length. That's why. I forgot that my original, I did it shorter, and then when I did them for the packs, they were actually meant to be the same size, like to go from one end to the other. But totally up to you if you want to have that. You'll see a little bit more of it if you leave it the full size, the full width of your cardstock, which is 14.85 centimeters long for those of you who have metric, and it would be 5.5 if you're in the US. So, all right, I'm just going to pop some dimensionals behind this panel to make it stand out a little bit more. If you love these kinds of things and you love watching people craft live, or you love to, you know, see how do all this sort of stuff, you're always welcome to watch my Friday night and Sunday night lives, which are all completely free. I make 1 or 2 projects, and we have just the best community of girls there every Friday and Sunday night. I'm so proud of the girls because they just yeah, they're a great community and they are fantastic. So oh, that's okay. No, that's okay, Carmen. Just whenever. I'm glad you like the flowers. All right, so we have our piece here. We also have our little label, and we're going to use Calypso Coral ink, or you could use the soft succulent ink. Doesn't really matter, whichever way you want to go. And I've got this Feel Better Real Soon little sentiment. I'm just going to make sure that it's straight on the block. Oh, it is. All right, so I'm going to pop that here, right in the middle of my little label there. And I'm going to pop a couple of dimensionals behind that as well. Now, only use one at each end, and don't put them all the way to the end, sort of a little bit kind of here, if you can see where I've got those little dimensionals. And we want there to be enough room to slide our little flowers in. Remember the little gold flowers that I said before that we need to use? So let me pop that right there, cover up that little blob. All right, and then I've got a couple of things that we're going to do. First of all, we've got, if you've got one of these, you're going to need to cut this here at the stem, just right here like that. All right, if that's in your pack. If you've got 2 of these, you may end up needing to cut this piece shorter. I believe you will need to cut it shorter. So this one's going to fit in right here behind there, and the best way to pop this on is with glue dots. Mini glue dots are great for doing this kind of thing. Okay, so they come on a roll like this, and I'm just going to pop the glue dot behind this little gold piece, and we're going to have that just popping out the bottom there. And then this little guy, I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter because we don't need all this. We don't need all this paloo bar here. We just want the edge of the flower sticking out. So I'm going to add one here. So basically we're just decorating it up now, making it look pretty. It's always nice to have a few little elements that, there we go, just like that. That's looking pretty. Can you see that? Now, up to you if you want to keep adding stuff. Also in the packs is, and where did it go? You have 3 little, here they are, 3 little iridescent rhinestones. Iridescent rhinestones have been my absolute favorite go-to embellishment for a while now. I love them, although I've just discovered iridescent pearls. So for anyone who hasn't seen the iridescent pearls, they are divine. Also love those. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 of these on. I'm going to put one down here in this bottom area here. That's the biggest one. Then there's a medium one, which I'm going to pop here on the side of my label, and a little bitty guy, and he's going to go kind of up here. So like a little triangle of them. You might decide that's enough. It probably is. If you wanted to, you can add, I've put in some soft succulent ribbon that you are very welcome to add to your project if you would like to. Or sometimes you need to add, if you've got a blob of ink or something, sometimes adding something like this is a good idea because you can cover it up. So, you know, embellishments are pretty, but they do have a use, and that is to cover up all the little oopsies that you have managed to get on your cards. And don't tell me that you've never had an oopsie on your card, because I know you have. I know, because I do all the time. And I'm just going to snip this off, make it have shorter little tails, and then we could add that if we wanted to. So what do you think, with or without? Totally up to you to decide. Oh, look at that. Oh, thanks, Jody. I'm glad you love the lives. I love doing them, and it's a lot of fun for me. So there we go. I'm just going to pop it. Bling does work wonders. It absolutely does. It's not just a pretty face. Yeah, more embellishments on top of that. Whoopsies. Exactly right. That's exactly right. All right. All right, so if you would like to purchase the tutorials, I'll have the blog post up and running just in the next little bit, straight after this video. The very first thing I'm going to do when this video is over is I'm going to go over to the blog and post that, so that if you wish to purchase a tutorial with all those extra cards. I didn't finish showing you the cards. Goodness me. And oopsie is a design opportunity. I love that. That's so good, Cherie. Now, that's a little thing. You can add the bow or not add the bow. Okay, so we've already talked about this one. This is a no-line watercoloring one that is also in the tutorials. So there's this one. This is what you're going to get, okay? There's this one, which is a watercoloring of, I hope you can see it, it's white embossing, heat embossing, and I've colored that in, which is really pretty. And this stamp set is called, what is it called? It's called Begin with a Dream. It's a host set, this one. I don't get to use it very often, so I was very excited. This one is also the same technique. So this one is, instead of this was white embossing, this one is black embossing, and that's on watercolor paper. This one's on shimmery white. So I've shown a couple of different ways to use embossing and how to go about coloring it. This one is using, this one and this one are using watercolor shapes in some of our stamp sets to create a particular look. So this is all about new ink colors, and this one is, like I said, there's a tutorial that does both of those cards and shows you how to use those. And then, of course, some of you know how much I love scene building with our stamps. This is with the gorgeous Oceanfront stamp set, and it's a really great, if you're wanting to do this technique, Oceanfront is a great stamp set to start with, right? Really, really good. You're never too late. Never too late. It's Chris, is it? There you go. All the way from Iowa. So hello. Hello. So this one is just using the stamp set pretty much as it's intended to be used. Plus I've also run over some water with my aqua painter or my water painter, and then this one's showing how to use the stamps in a bit of a different way. So all these tutorials, so there's not counting this one because that's the one we've just done, but 1, 2, 3, 4, and also the one that I showed you before with the stays on, this one. So there's 5 different videos that show you how to get different effects with watercoloring different images. We'll do watercoloring backgrounds another month because I think that'll be really fun. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that you could join me today. I'm really, really excited. If you love the tutorials, you can purchase them on my blog. I'll have that open in the next little while for you. So I'm going to run off there right now and get that all set up. And don't forget, guys, there's the blog address on the screen so you know where to go. Okay, that's where you go. lhiggins@blogspot.com. All right. You guys have a fantastic afternoon. We didn't do too bad, an hour and a quarter. So I'm pretty happy with that. I hope you are too. Thank you for spending this afternoon with me. And I'll see many of you tomorrow night on my Sunday Night Live. See you guys. Bye-bye.